Hey, I'm Mike Murphy, and guess what? Thank God, I'm not alone. I'm here, not being alone, with my good friend Jake Hogan.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
Hello, Kogan Nation. Hello, Don't Be Aloners. Hello, Alone Bones. This is Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan. I am Jake Hogan, and you are my friend because you're watching. Thank you for being here. This is a place where we get together with interesting people to solve my problems. And my problem today is going to be solved by a very interesting man, political consultant and pod show host. Mike Murphy is here today, and he's going to tell me about what it's like to have been a conservative, because I've been a lifelong progressive. And so the conservative side's the other team. But what it's also like to be a conservative who's not a Trump conservative, and to feel a little bit out of favor with your own people. Your own movement has sort of left you behind. That sucks. Mike is the host of Hacks on Tap, which is one of the very best podcasts, political podcasts out there, which provides, he does with David Axelrod and himself, and provides a service where you get to hear the points of view of the conservatives and the progressives, and more about the inside politics of how things work, and how political consultants and the press and the people and the media conspire to sort of make things happen. And if there's anything we can do to push things in the right direction, Mike's the man to answer it. Please write to me at dbawjk@gmail.com with your complaints, your compliments, and your listener questions that I use for the show, or just say hi and we'll have a conversation. Also, go to the show's Substack, the Don't Be Alone with Jake Hogan Substack, and we're going to have interesting information, things that have been cut out of past shows that are in there that we can see. So bonus material, that's what it's called, right? Bonus material. We're going to have interesting information, bonus material, and it's completely free. It's free. All you got to do is go there. And so it'll be fine. I'll even write stuff and talk about stuff and devote more of my endless time to the Substack, because you know why? Somebody told me I should. And I'm that much of a monkey that I'll do anything somebody tells me I should. But that's for later. For now, it's this show, and we're going to have Mike Murphy come on. He's also one of the world's most successful political consultants. He's been a consultant for Mitt Romney and Jeb Bush and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Christy Whitman. He won a lot of elections for a lot of people, and often these Republican candidates in blue states. So he must be really good. And he's really funny. He's really smart. He's a TV writer as well, and has a radio announcer's voice, and we'll find out more about that too. So stay tuned for Mike Murphy right after this.
Don't be alone with Jake Hogan.
So Mike Murphy, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
I am such a fan of your podcasting world.
Well,
That's the Hacks on Tap was very influential to me. I love that show.
Thank you.
And I love you on it, and I love Axe on it, and I just anybody who of my fans who are not listening to it should listen to it. It gives a perspective on politics that are very, I think, interesting. It's not always about what's right or what's wrong. It's about how you can sort of politically achieve things.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do the screamathon back and forth.
Right.
You know, you can get a lot of that for free. Just take Etc. I recommend. What it is Axelrod and I are old close friends from when we were puppies and consulting many decades ago. Mm-hmm. We used to run campaigns against each other, like for governor of Iowa, and then we go sneak out and have dinner somewhere.
So how does that friendship form? If you have this opponent who's basically there to try and destroy you and your candidate.
Well, there used to be, and there are still some, but there used to be. It's kind of like the old Looney Tunes cartoon with the wolf and the sheepdog. Hey, Fred. Hi, Charlie.
Right.
And then, you go kill each other, and then the whistle blows like, see you tomorrow. Yeah, how are the kids? Fine. We're kind of trapped in the same crazy reality of the political consulting business, although on opposite sides, but parallel universe.
Sure.
And we're both starting out. And this is also true of my friend Mark Mellman, who's a big Dem pollster. And I can't remember how we originally met. And that's how long it's been. But the other thing is, in those friendships, you're not competing for business.
Right.
So, that stress of pitching against each other and everything.
So only Republican consultants work for Republicans and only
Mostly.
Democrats?
There are occasional, it's not as For a long time, it wasn't true.
Right.
People would, and there's a guy named David Garth who was famous in our business in New York who would work either way. Then it all got very partisan, and it still kind of is, but there are corporate accounts or a referendum where you might work across the
Right.
party. So anyway, we became pals, and most political people ask their divorce lawyers will, on Sunday, get itchy.
Right.
The kid's doing great, took him to baseball yesterday, and it's now Sunday afternoon. So they start wanting to talk about politics, so the phone calls start.
Right.
And Axe and I would almost every Sunday would have kind of even when he was in the White House, and, I'm on the other side,
Right.
but he trusted me and I trusted him, and, would talk everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's the one who called me and said, after he got out and kind of retired-ish, did more punditry and all that, not campaigns, he said, we ought to turn these into a podcast. And I said, yeah, I'm doing this Radio Free GOP Trump hate thing, but I'm taking it down now that he's been elected president. And I'm going to give him a year and under the fantasy that maybe it was all performance. Yeah, talk about wrong. But I said, I really don't want to piss all over the new president for 6 months. Maybe, because that was the shtick back in 2016. Oh, no. I mean, Trump even said, I have a buddy who's a big fundraiser for Republican high dollar stuff. And Trump was trying to recruit some of those guys. So he took him in, and the guy said, a lot of your language is kind of difficult.
Right.
And he goes, that's just a show I put on for the rubes.
Right.
I'm a Wall Street guy. Don't worry.
Right.
And so I thought, give him a chance. And of course, it went, every year it gets worse.
Well,
but we started Hacks on Tap.
Yeah, regardless, he's still putting on the show. The show is everything, and I think policy takes a far back seat.
Well, and the show is more about his own madness because he's been on Trump crazy bubble for going on 9 years now.
Right.
And,
well, let's talk about that for a second, because when I listened to the show over the years, I felt bad for you because, you're a believer in the Republican Party, or what we used to call the Republican Party. You worked for it. You spent your life, trying to advance certain candidates and ideas. And then this guy comes along and he really sort of takes the party in this weird direction.
Yes,
and then
he did.
People like you, and I know many people who are Republicans who also feel uncomfortable by the MAGA movement and Trump, feel left out. Like where?
Well, I feel a little bit like back in the 30s, you'd go to the Russian restaurant in Paris, and the doorman would be a former field marshal in the Tsar's army.
Right.
And now I'm parking cars.
Sure.
Yeah, and I don't even, what do the kids say today, identify as a Republican anymore.
Okay.
I'm still conservative.
Right.
But Trump is a populist yahoo, and that's not conservatism. I came up in the old anti-Soviet days. But yeah, it's weird. We used to call it the cause. There's a reason we were doing this stuff. And, you become a businessman too. You learn how to monetize it. It starts paying pretty well. Mm-hmm. But it's hard, very competitive work. It's kind of, as much as anything is, it's a meritocracy. Because you either win campaigns or your phone's not going to ring. So anyway, and we were all kind of and it was very anti-Soviet back there. We're talking early 80s, the Reagan era. And then this stuff came along.
Right.
And luckily for me, I know a lot of people who are kind of anti-Trump but won't admit it because they got a mortgage and 3 kids and they're in the machinery. I had enough success in my quirky Irish personality anyway to be feisty about it. Because I first bumped into Trump in 93. I'm old guard. I was Christy Whitman's consultant. She was governor of New Jersey. I did those 2 races. And he was down in Atlantic City, leaving a trail of slime everywhere.
She kicked ass. She won.
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
Okay,
We
congratulations.
in a tough blue state. They were close ones, but we won them both. But he was a problem. Yeah. And I could tell he was a big corner cutter and not a good guy. So I've been, psychotically anti-Trump since then. And so it was not a hard decision for me. And I was also in a position where I could do other stuff.
And congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Somebody saved his money. Or at least you had alternate abilities and things, which we'll talk about later.
Offshore work. Vote for General Lisa Mo Iron Pants. Like you have a choice, amigo?
Sure.
Yeah. No, there's corporate work and all that. And I do other things.
What is that corporate? I saw that on your your bio that you've worked for corporations. What is that corporate work?
Well, they almost always lock me up with an NDA, but it would be like a crisis thing where, apparently milk duds will kill you. We better do something about that. Call a political guy, and I'm making that up. Milk duds.
No, I understand, but like a crisis PR situation.
Yeah, some of that. Sometimes it's just pure consulting to kind of find a better way to sell something, because the agencies they think it's a home run if they get a Clio and you get 1% more market share.
Right.
We're from the world of 50 or die. So we're kind of like MASH surgeons. We kind of get to the issue fast.
As a not native, but pretty close to native Californian,
where are you from originally?
Brooklyn, New York.
Okay, gotcha.
But we moved here when I was 5, so it wasn't like I had a lot of New York in me.
Yeah.
But I've been here long enough to know that if you're voting for a proposition that sounds like you're going to try and help solve the homeless problem, you might be making the homeless problem worse.
Yeah, well...
then the other one, there's a competing initiative that it says exactly the same thing.
The fun campaigns are kind of vote no. The vote yes campaigns are often a shell game. You know, did you know 2,700 puppies are killed every year?
Right.
Vote yes on Prop A, which will change insurance regulations to triple profits for catastrophic care and donate $1 million a year to puppy care. You know, there's a little bait and switchery. The no campaign, there's one generic no campaign that works all the time, which is Prop 28. They tell us it's about saving lost puppies. Read the fine print.
Right.
You know, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Or Prop 28. Saving puppies is a good idea, but it's flawed. It buys 28 Lincoln Continentals for state bureaucrats. There's no audit. So let's vote no and write a better law next year. You know, the punt thing. And people tend to love that. So a fair amount of that sort of thing for all kinds of industries, all kinds of states. And then, you know, the craziest thing I did, because it's so much like politics, I went out and dabbled in show business.
Well, that's
sold a couple of scripts. Now I'm in the union. So we're going to bring down the man.
That.
Yeah, it's been a character building experience. We always vote for strikes, and then we teach the studios how to put writers out of the equation. But
what should I be more cynical about, show business or politics? Since you've done both.
Show business.
Yeah.
No, it's a close call.
All right.
Show business is a little nicer.
Okay.
You know, both places run on insincerity. Though in politics, if your enemies want to kill you, they try to put you in jail.
Right.
In show business, they give you a shitty overall, never return your calls.
They put you in movie jail.
Yeah,
which means you can't work. You don't get to work. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's but they're cousins.
Right. But okay, so how did you then sink your teeth into the conservative movement? At what point did you decide, you know what?
Well, I was in high school in the 70s, late 70s, and I was very interested in international affairs. You know, geography, world map, diplomacy. And so it was the Carter era.
Right.
And I, you know, a bit of a rebel, but I was from that weird Irish Catholic, upper middle class, educated, but somewhat culturally conservative, you know. And so even the relatives of my mom's side were UAW. They went crazy about the liberal stuff.
Sure.
And that era it kind of peaked. So I went off to the Georgetown School of Foreign Service, Russian Area Studies, go fight the Cold War.
Right.
That was great, but I'd always loved film, theater, political theater. I loved the conventions and all that kind of. So one thing led to another. I'm in my dorm room, and I had gotten an internship at a conservative PAC called NICPAC back then.
Okay.
And we kind of invented independent expenditures where a third party could run ads.
Oh, wow.
The theory was that Congressman, nice guy for Congress, wouldn't want to run ads criticizing the opponent. But we could.
Right.
They kind of plow a course for him.
Right.
So I wanted to make the ads, but, you know, I'm a sophomore in college. So we had fired the ad agency. And, well, who knows how to make ads? And, you know, paid intern Mike. I did it.
Right.
You know, many Clios in my garage. I just didn't bring them.
Sure.
So I called a guy named Alex Castellano, who's supposed to be an ace ad producer, and he had made one ad.
Okay.
And so hence Murphy and Castellanos began. And my first big break, we did a bunch of ads for NICPAC, independent expenditure, learned production from these tough old CBS News 60 Minutes cameramen who'd all learned in the Air Force.
Right.
And they kind of taught me production in their drill sergeant kind of way. There was a great one named Bob Peterson and Lee Kenauer. And so learned a lot. I'm still going to school. Then I get a call for the next cycle, 84, where I'm no longer really showing up for classes anymore, from this great old consultant woman, Maxine Fernstrom, who had Congressman Wild Bill Carney from the Long Island Fishtail, Suffolk County, Machine Republican County.
I like when congressmen had a name like Wild Bill. That's fantastic.
That was a nickname. Publicly, it was William Carney.
All right, I want to vote for Wild Bill.
Well, Carney got elected in the 80 Reagan landslide because the Long Island used to have a Republican machine, dying breed. And the boss sat them all down and said, all right, it's an open seat. We're going to do well with Reagan. We need a congressman. I need anybody who's married, Irish Catholic, no criminal problems, stand up. And like 3 guys stood up.
Right.
Carney was one of them. Yeah, you're a good-looking kid. You're running for Congress. He was an aluminum siding salesman. And they get him elected. Then in 82...
Is congressman a step up from aluminum siding salesman or a step down?
Same skill set.
Yeah, exactly.
Better money probably in Congress.
Right.
He'd gotten in trouble because they were building the Shoreham nuclear power plant. And the construction interests who were with the Republicans wanted to. So there was a recall effort against Congressman Carney back in 82, his first reelect. And he almost lost 47 votes in a machine county.
Right.
To give you an idea how Long Island works, Al D'Amato was a local official there, and they beamed him up to the Senate to get out of the local stuff where the careers were. Al's a little too greedy. We'll make him a senator. Get him out of here.
That worked.
Yeah, it worked great.
Yeah.
It was kind of a fluke win. But anyway, so it was time for the rematch, and nobody wanted to do it. Sure loser. But, I'm a starving kid.
Right.
Anyway, so did the race. It was only radio. We had a lot of money,
but
we had no votes. So my big idea was go on New York radio. And I remember the bosses sat me down and said, we like to do yard signs here. By my way, here's my brother's card, runs a printing company. $17 each? I said, no. I said, we're going to do New York radio. And we got money. And they said, you're out of your mind. It's 50 congressional districts here in New York radio. I go, yeah, including the one we're losing.
Right.
So we did it. And being young and irresponsible, we did the War of the Worlds spot.
Okay.
We interrupt this broadcast for a test of the Shoreham nuclear emergency evacuation. You'll have 6 minutes to get to Connecticut. And we mailed everybody a map with the circles, the deadly radiation, because our opponent, the state rep, had voted for a state rescue plan for Lilco, the power company that owns Share, that would have turned the plant on for a while to pay down the debt.
Right.
So as far as we were concerned, he was for finishing and activating Shoreham.
Right.
And we had more money. We had New York radio. And it was 84, good year. We killed the guy.
That's great.
And now my phone's ringing, and
maybe great, maybe not. I'm sure. Congratulations.
It worked.
Right.
And next thing you know, I'm political. So I take a leave of absence from Georgetown, which I'm still on.
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
One day I'll go back. Yeah.
They're not giving you like some degree from Georgetown? You haven't gotten something?
I need to find the office they have in the Middle East, because I think there's some money involved sometimes in that.
Yeah.
But I love it. It was a wonderful place.
Right.
Jesuits taught me how to argue both sides of anything, which is a valuable skill.
Very valuable. That's what I did at UCLA. I went to philosophy major.
Right.
And so it's all about knowing both sides.
Yeah. Tremendous respect for a good argument.
For sure. And it's helpful as a writer that you do to understand two sides of every argument, because your characters all have different sides and different points of view.
And every character thinks they're a hero.
Yes, exactly.
And that led to a lot of races.
Right.
Mostly on the media message side, making commercials.
So if you started this Nick Pack at this, was it the rule then, or is it still the rule, or maybe it's an imagined rule, that the PAC can't talk to the candidate?
Yeah, in an independent expenditure, you're off in your own world trying to kind of do this Kreskin thing where you want to know what they're thinking, and you try
So how do you know that the thing that you're making either is in the spirit of the candidate, or the candidate will appreciate it, and or...
Yeah, it's a good question. So originally, we invented it in the Stone Age of this in the early 80s. We would take our own polling and say, obviously, the vulnerability of Congressman Bag of Donuts is missed 82 votes, took a junket. And so we're softening them up so we're open a hole, because we're trying to help challengers beat incumbents. Now, there's some legality. It's become so huge that campaigns spend a lot of effort sending signals.
Yeah.
And if you go on a big campaign, a contested one's website, you will find an unmarked page somewhere that's publicly accessible. And they might put up an ad with a AI voiceover that nobody's supposed to really see other than curious people who dig in, but the IE committee is supposed to see.
I see.
Boy, if only if we had money to run this ad.
Well, yeah.
And then you go copy it and put it. I mean, it's you got to be careful.
Right.
If you're smart, you lawyer up tremendously. But there are ways that signals are sent. There's often a lot of stress between the campaign people. Those idiots at the super PAC ran the wrong ad. That happens a lot with Harris.
Now, as a consultant, you obviously make money the bigger the campaign,
any way you can.
Well,
That's
any way you
generally
can,
the
but
business.
but you get the bigger campaign, the bigger the consultant fee. I would
Yeah,
imagine.
kind of. I mean, in my era, because I'm kind of winding down now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a little, but I'm not doing Republican candidates anymore. Can't take it, and I'm no good for them.
Yeah.
I also don't want the travel. I'm busy
Right.
with corporate and the other stuff. In the old days, it still kind of exists. The media consultants would act like the ad agency. So if you in ad agency world, traditionally, though everything's disrupted now, you spend $1 million on advertising. You charge the client $1 million. The stations charge you $850, and there's a 15% commission.
Mm-hmm.
And you have certain costs to buy the media, which is a complicated thing. The commission would be negotiated.
Yeah.
Like we're paid 7% on the first million, 5% on the second. So generally, a bigger campaign, you charge more money, but you're also competing. There's always somebody who says, "I'll do it all for 2%."
Right.
And so if you become known as somebody with experience and you've won a lot of races, you're in demand, and you can say, "Yeah, look, get the guy who does it in his basement.
Right.
Really good. This will be his first Senate campaign. He'll learn a lot.
Right.
I'll show up for the concession speech. Don't go into debt. That's my reg." You can charge a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The key is the smart consumer would limit the number of races.
Right.
So I would get full vote 15 on some things, but I say I'm only going to do 2 governor races.
Right.
You're one of them. And I do a lot of it myself. I had people there, but I was the hands-on person.
And would you pick, if you could, a candidate who you thought was going to be a winner? Like, does it help to have more winners in your column? And
yeah, but it's weighted. It's just like credits in the showbiz world.
Mm-hmm.
So I might say, all right, I can do 4 statewide, and this year I'm going to go get 2 big, well-paying, tough ones. And then I got an old buddy who's an easy reelect, won't make much money, but he's always used me, and
Right.
it'll be an easy thing to do, and I can train a kid on it a little bit. And then I got one more slot. The greedy guys will try to get a 3rd huge race,
Right.
but the key to making money in this business is the longevity.
right.
But I'll say, why don't I go get an easy reelection? Illinois, a big market. Maybe I'll have a shot at a governor's race there because my stuff will be good. They're seeing on TV.
Right.
So you can be a little strategic.
Right.
But generally, when people are looking at hiring you, the pros are always amateurs who show up with money and get rolled. It's, I remember once I was pitching this crazy guy who was a commercial real estate developer in New Haven, Connecticut. And I just signed my office lease. I said, yeah, and he goes, here's the only thing you know about office leases, kid. We do it 5 times a day. You do it once every 8 years. So you probably didn't do that well.
Right.
So I there are people who get rolled by political
Sure.
consultants a lot. But it was pretty good because you could have some price control.
But you didn't need to win. It helps to win, but you didn't need to.
Yeah, but they judge you on a curve.
Right.
So winning an easy reelect, and what a lot of consultants would do is they would go take the easy reelect, incumbent senator, good Republican state, pretty easy, and they'd lowball it just to get an excuse to make some pretty spots for the real.
Right.
So there would be incentives for marketing as well.
Sure.
But I got hired because I would go do tough races, mostly in non-red states. My specialties were that, Michigan. Back then, Wisconsin, still a swing state, but was even a little tougher blue. Florida was a swing state. Massachusetts, I did Romney's race for governor there. Arnold here in California. So I like to play on the other side's turf and win. So there is like a filter through how hard was the job, and that's part of it. So you want to take some tough ones, and they're more fun.
But now that you're winding down from all of that, can we agree that this kind
I'm
of
an apostate in the party.
the money that goes into these campaigns is kind of ruining
I don't know.
politics.
Money is speech, and sometimes the only speech the candidate has, it's not through a filter, is the money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, okay, I'm going to say something. I'm going to rely on Fox News to interpret it for the audience, or the New York Times. So there's a lot of filters out there.
Right.
And so money is the blunt instrument that allows you to break through.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's a double-edged sword because that is speech and it is being heard, but it also is all the politicians are now admittedly spending all their time fundraising, spending so much of their time, and sometimes it affects their policy and because big donor.
What political contributions really, they come from different pots.
Right.
One pot is a catalog business of people who give $50 or $100.
Right.
That's all emotional appeal. That's ideological.
Right.
And it pays to send hot messages out. More money comes in on the left or the right.
Right. I'm overwhelmed with those hot messages. I don't need.
Well, you've made the mistake of giving before.
This is the election. This is the end of the world is nigh. All that.
The old trick used to be when it was all direct mail. Now with the internet, the cost of the communication is so cheap.
Right.
It doesn't cost anything to email 1 million people. Back when they had the mail, they'd spend 80 cents mailing you a letter, and they'd hope 10% or 5% would give back, and they'd still make a little money. There used to be the business reply, no postage envelope. So the little secret and the trick, because we were all on the list, is you take the business reply envelope, you stick in, there's a code on the laser printed letter you get that they can track you with, that's the card. You put that in, you tape it to a brick, or sometimes a cinder block. And the post office for $82 will bring it back. And the first thing you do is delete you from any other. And some mischievous campaigns would go get 100 bricks and 100. Yeah,
that's
it was
fantastic.
Almost a weaponization.
How much does it cost to mail a brick?
Back then, in $1998 or $96, it was. Because the BREs are like faster. It was like $70 or something. It was a lot.
Sure. Okay.
So you go do 300 bricks.
Sure. It hurts.
Yeah. So the campaigns used to be a little more fun with that kind of, PG-rated chicanery.
Right.
Not now, and there's no strategy now. Now it's chainsaws at 2 feet, and you don't have to tell the truth.
Right.
You used to get in trouble in a political ad if you lied more than like 10%.
As a dyed-in-the-wool progressive,
What?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I know, how shocking. Yeah. But we seem so impotent. I mean, it seems like we're staring at the big bad wolf and going like, well, okay, burn down the house, that's all right.
Clutch pearls, call a shrink.
Yeah.
That's the Democrat campaign. We're trained in the Republican Party from age 3 that when you're in one of these battles, grab the sharpest thing you can and attack.
Right.
Don't decide to have a group about, all right, everybody's feelings now, and I think we really. Don't try to impress the New York Times. We used to say, and it's like Confessions of a Republican Political Goon, let them win the smart editorial board argument. We're going to win the stupid supermarket checkout line argument.
Right.
And that's a pretty good formula.
It does. It seems to have worked. Could you have fathomed how dumb this country was until recently? Or did you always, as a political consultant, did you always know and in your base that...
I'm going to kill myself here because in my younger, angrier years, there was 1 year under occupation on my taxes, I put moron wrangler because I was out moving.
Right.
Generally, I mean, I have to back up. I did this by choice because I care about policy.
Right.
2/3 of the people I helped get into office and voters did the real work and the candidates did, I'm very proud of. They were tremendous, particularly some of those Republican governors like Jeb, Romney, John Engler in Michigan, Tommy Thompson. Very proud because they were grown-ups and they did great stuff. Now that it's all performative, they're a lot harder to find.
Right.
And they were also conservative. So we're stupider than we were because, again, politics is not seen as that important. It's become entertainment.
And sports. But
right. Well, that's the thing about the media. They cover politics like sports. Yeah. Well, the focus groups show that Hitler's message about immigrants and perhaps locking up all the Jews tests very well with these key swing voters here in Dortmund. Well, yes, it's true, but the Christian Democrats do seem to have support of There's no loading to it.
Right.
It's all coach analysis and scorecard, which is nuts.
So many Americans who could have voted didn't vote.
Yeah. Well, that's a vote, though. Not voting is an expression of screw 'em both.
Right.
People choose not to vote. It's the third choice.
Right. People don't invest themselves into their civic duty. People definitely want to hide from jury duty. They want to hide from voting. They want to hide from
citizenship. The idea that there is an obligation is a foreign idea now.
Speaking of good citizenship, tell me about EVs and tell me about that. I mean, we have family. We have 2 electric vehicles and one hybrid vehicle.
Okay,
and
good.
so we're
you're doing your part.
We're doing my part, but the thing is, one of our vehicles is a.
I brought you something.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to use it right now.
EV, yeah, there you go. See, It's made by Chinese craftsmen.
Listen, I'm happy to somebody's getting work, but like one of our vehicles is a Tesla,
Right.
and so now that we felt like, well, okay, well, it's a really well-made car.
No, it was the must-have car for a while,
right?
and now,
and what happened was, I don't know if you heard about this, but this
there's
Elon Musk fella, went to go work
apparently
for
some
Trump.
crazy South African,
So now I feel shitty about paying $80,000 for my Tesla.
Well, I'll give you the EV story, and I'm going to kill your entire audience here as they get bored and tune out.
That's all right.
But I'll give you the short version.
Yeah.
So one, I'm a motorhead from Detroit. My lifetime average is 5 miles per gallon.
Right.
But when I got out here to California, I found all my prejudices against, God, I used to write dentist jokes about it. Yeah, they run on smugness.
Right.
Melted away. One, thanks to our huge tax regime here and other reasons. We were for a while paying $6 plus a gallon for gas.
Right.
But the elegance, an internal combustion engine is an amazing thing. About 400 parts, many of them machined. It went in a lot of work. We perfected the damn thing over 120 years. Mm-hmm. We make really good ICE engines now. But an electric powertrain has maybe 7 moving parts. So just the physics of it are more elegant.
Yeah.
And so I became a nut for EVs, a slow convert because the technology of them. Then I took a look at the world trends because I have kind of an OCD personality where when I get interested in something, I want to know everything about it. So I go off into a weird, deep dive. Good thing about the campaign business is you learn how to take things apart quickly. Like, all right, we're going to run a Vermont governor's campaign. I know how governor campaigns work. Never done Vermont. I'm going to learn everything about Vermont. I drive up there, spend 3 days driving around. I become a massive bore about Vermont and the demographics and everything is how to be a good consultant. Well,
Vermont's just New Hampshire without the signs, right?
Yeah, it's here's the great thing about Vermont. Very liberal, also kind of Appalachian redneck at the same time. Loosest gun control laws in America. You want to own a Gatling gun, move to Vermont.
Right.
Most nuclear state. So it's a lot of contradictions. But when in doubt, the mountain range there, which becomes Appalachia, that strain is still there. Anyway, it's a pretty interesting state. The candidate I worked for there, the governor, actually carried a .38 in an ankle holster too. Which, yeah, right. And he was kind of a big guy. I wasn't sure he could ever get to it.
Right,
but,
right.
Anyway, he almost killed me one night. And by the way, this is the new podcast. I think I'm going to do funny campaign stories.
Yes.
About all the weirdos that you deal with, and how funny they all are. The human comedy of it is
who's
incredible.
Who's the weirdest?
Oh God, I'll tell you one story.
Okay.
And then I'll get back to EVs.
All right.
Erlen Castellanos and I get a call from a up-and-coming Republican politician who was a member of Congress, clearly going places. Had a somewhat tough district, so I had to have a good team, but had their eye on statewide, governor, president, good-looking, smart, always wore crisp white shirts and a perfect suit. So, and he's going to hire his first real consultants because the district had gotten a little tougher, but he's got a plan.
Right.
He's one of these very serious guys, not a big sense of humor, kind of a little pretentious. Everything was said with great import, like I made brownies the other day with walnuts. A little of that, a little chunk. Okay. So anyway, we're having the conversation. It's the get to know you thing right after we got hired. And then he finally said, and we're on the regulation blue, navy blue congressional couch, and he's by his desk in the ornate office. Probably his 4th term in Congress or 3rd. It's one thing I want you to know. A long pause. I only have one testicle.
Okay.
And we like look at each other like, is this a test?
Right.
Is this guy crazy? And we both want to say the same thing, like Hitler.
Right.
But we don't. But anyway, it didn't last on that campaign.
Sure.
But yeah, I used to
joke. Did he win?
He did, okay. I think, for a while, but he never
Think
moved
of what he
up.
could have done with 2 testicles.
Yeah, I know. He'd be president.
Fantastic, absolutely.
But EVs. So grew up around the auto industry. And the more I learned about it, I was attracted to EVs. And I was not a big climate guy. Yeah, I believe in it and everything. Climate is actually the problem with EVs, which I'll explain in a minute. But what I liked about them, other than the tech side of it, was the future of the world auto industry. The U.S. is only 10% of the world auto market. Currently is 25% EVs. In the world today, 25% of the cars are going to be pure electric. And it's taken over. The Chinese have made a move 18 years ago, approximately,
Right.
where they said to the European and American automakers, you know what? We need cars. We can't make good cars. We're going to open the market. You guys are going to make billions over here. But you got to do a joint venture and teach local guys how to make a car. And Volkswagen, Mercedes, General Motors, Ford, everybody went running over there and built a ton of car plants and minted money, billions of dollars.
Showed them exactly how to do it.
It showed them how. And boy, these young engineers are so nice. They want to learn. They cut my lawn on weekends. They invite me to a feast.
Right.
GM used to sell more cars in Asia than they do in the U.S. And it's only recently it's backed off a little. And it worked. Everybody made a fortune. Chinese learned how to make good cars. So now, of course, the foreign brands are all being killed in China.
Right.
China is capable of making 50 million cars a year. They made 30 million last year. We made 10 million.
Right.
Most Americans don't know the Chinese auto industry is 3 times our size.
Right.
They are eating the world market. 4 years ago, both electric and ICE, combustion cars, Mexico imported 50,000 Chinese cars. This year, probably 600,000.
Right.
So they're going to wipe out the U.S. auto industry.
Right.
I had the CEO of a famous car company say, it's even money whether we're going to exist in 10 years if we can't get EVs right. So there were a lot of execution flaws, but Biden was essentially right about subsidizing our industry. The Chinese are particularly good at batteries. They have an MIT all about battery tech. Funny thing is, the godfather of the Chinese battery industry was a GM engineer, an American, who after the early GM electrics were shelled, they put him in the fan belt thing with nothing to do.
Right.
He flies to China to give a speech.
Right.
100 young engineers want his photo autographed. And the chairman of this young Chinese startup said, you ever want to come here and work on batteries? Sure. At GM, I can't even get a parking space anymore. That began CATL, the dominant world battery company. So it drove me crazy that Republicans just reflexively hated EVs. They've become partisan. So I took my own dough and I did some campaign-style polling about EVs, what the division's about and what to do about it. And, automotive news picked it up, and then I'm getting car CEOs calling, come on in. So I've become kind of an EV activist advisor.
Right.
And I'll give you the one headline. It's not about the environment. We are a country. You can say, this is terrible. It's crazy. I'm going to call the New York Times and write a letter. You can do all that. And then you can join Kamala in the concession. You got to go to people where they are. And then you might be able to move them. We asked a question on our polling. Which of these statements do you agree with? Climate change is a serious problem and we've got to take action, serious action.
Right.
Climate change is overhyped by the media and it's no big deal. The car market will tell you it's about 52% serious action and about 48% no big deal. I'm sorry, 58 serious action, 42 no big deal.
Okay.
Very partisan. So when you do the white polar bear commercials, the original Nissan Leaf where the polar bear's mad and swims to America and hugs a guy buying a Leaf, you're alienating half the market. The more EVs are seen as political, the worse they do. Elon, who is now pre the latest feud, his favorable, unfavorable for Republicans were like 70 over 10. Democrats, 5 favorable, 80 unfavorable. No wonder the brand's blown up. Because he's politicized the other way.
Yes.
His brand. So the way to sell electric cars is faster, fun to drive, save $2,000 a year in gas. You don't have to pay anymore. Average family spends $2,000 a year. The electric costs about $700, $1,300 a head. And they're more American made, by the way.
But
so we're out slugging away on that.
China started 20 EV.
More. There are 100 EV companies essentially.
Right, and they just figured out which ones would do great. And then
only 3 make money.
Right.
And so pretend you're the CEO of Ford. You got to compete with guys who have more scale. And in the auto business, the more you make, the cheaper they cost to make. And don't have to make a profit.
Right.
So when they come into Australia, here's a $23,000 electric car that we lose money on. How do you compete with that without going bankrupt?
But in the United States, we've regularly helped companies.
Yeah.
The government
right now,
has been helping
subsidies
to companies to do better. At least that's what used to happen. I don't know if Doge...
They're trying to kill it now. The Senate just voted. Well, basically, you go out today to lease an EV, and I would tell our loyal listeners, always lease.
Right.
Why? Most of the time with cars you want to buy. With EVs, because the battery tech is improving every 24 months, your resale's not good.
Right.
So when you own it, the car will depreciate too quick. lease it 3 years. You'll get $7,500 off the top from Uncle Sam, and the Republicans are trying to kill that. And they probably will by the end of the year. I'm a pre-enterprise guy. I hate tariffs, and I don't like subsidies.
Right.
But in the short term, our companies are good, and the new EVs are tremendous. Not just Tesla. The Cadillac stuff is great. The Kia stuff, which is made, and Hyundai, which is made here. Rivian and Tesla are great cars.
Right.
The Rivian and Lucid. Tesla, I'm kind of bitchy about for crazy Detroit reasons. And then you got the Elon.
Right.
You know, you got to decide if you're on that bandwagon. But fundamentally, if we get a couple of years support here, so it's not a one-sided fight,
right?
Well, we keep the Chinese out. Our guys will be strong enough to compete with the Chinese worldwide, or we're going to lose an auto industry. Right. And so here's what I close my little congressman PowerPoints with. There's one stat I want you to know. Stop thinking this is green dogma. This is U.S. manufacturing jobs. And not just the big three. The most successful auto plant in America for exports, number one, is BMW in South Carolina. It's the biggest BMW plant in the world.
Right.
American workers. I'm for NATO allies or Japan or the Koreans building here.
Yeah.
And also Canada, Mexico, it's all integrated. In World War II, in the late 30s, before the start of the war in 39, the British Empire, Britain and Canada, which is a small part of it, but I include them, made 500,000 light cars and trucks. Cars and light trucks, vehicles. The French made about 340,000. Germans made about 420,000. The U.S. in the year before Pearl Harbor made 4.7 million light vehicles.
Right.
And that was the industrial backbone that won the Second World War.
Yeah.
The Russian army ran on American trucks, ammunition, and locomotives.
Right.
A third of the British army did, and all our army. Because the assembly line is one of the few things that can build big, complicated machines at speed and volume. In fact, in the war, it was the auto guys who took over making airplanes.
Right.
Because they didn't know how to make a lot of them.
Right.
And so it was production line techniques. So I don't care if it's drones or what we're making, it's that manufacturing muscle that is key to our national security. And right now, again, the Chinese in a production war would beat us 5-1.
One of the reasons I'm very excited that you were here is so I could talk to you about this.
Well, you're ready for dental surgery now because I bored you to death with EVs.
It's to that point, which is, Democrats are very good, and I speak as a Democrat. Democrats are very good at over-regulating things to death so that nothing works, right?
Or it can't get done.
Can't get done. There's too many regulations and too many. We got to help this community and that community, and we can't push forward. And this is one of the issues. So I wanted to ask you, because you seem very, reasonable and smart and all this kind of, convince me to be more of a conservative. Tell me why I should be more of a conservative, because I think, okay, so tell me.
Well, it's been fun to be in LA. I've been here since 2008. People have been very nice to me, particularly in show business. But there is what I call the Lord Greystoke factor, which is you're a Republican. And I kind of look, look at that. He can use a fork. He hasn't shit his pants. He's not swinging from the chandelier. Do you understand what I'm saying? 2 + 2 is he can do math. There's kind of this stunt.
You're a little Tarzan-y. That's fine.
Well, thank you. And there's also 10% who pull me into the hallway. I'm a Republican. I want to have a career. We visited Saturday Night Live once. With a candidate in the mid-90s, and 3 writers pulled me under the bleachers and said, we're the only 3 Republicans working on network TV in New York City. I can't recommend the current populist Republican.
I understand, but here's
the point of conservatism.
All right.
Have some faith in people to make decisions. Give them the freedom to do that. Incentivize good decisions. Don't make bad decisions that easy. Because generally, when you try to do good by amassing power, the Leviathan, as Hobbes would say, there's a good book by Hayek called Road to Serfdom. When you create a big colossus of power to make everybody's lives better, that power tends to corrupt. It's Orwell. All pigs are equal, some more than the others. And so if you achieve a few things, which is empowered choice, be very good at civic ladders upward, self-education, public libraries, all this stuff, to give people who choose to a route to self-improvement. So the institutions of upward mobility work for everybody. If you're a math genius born on the east side of Detroit now, you do not have the same shot at the success you ought to have as a math genius born in Scarsdale, New York.
Right.
Public education, which is tragic.
Right.
And by the way, every year the Chinese have 5 times as many math geniuses born as we do. So we got to take advantage of the ones we have.
Right.
If you do this big government stuff, then you take choice and freedom away, and you get into statism, which is not good at getting things done and stifles human creativity. The difference between us, and this is hard to say in LA where dogs are people, but dogs, we can think and choose right and wrong. Our choices have power and impact. So build a society that rewards that. Well,
if we had the infrastructure you're talking about, where schools were great and everybody had we leveled the sort of the playing field to start with. So everybody has a great option to begin with, and then each person to his own ability rises.
But we turned teachers unions into British steel mill unions. They're about the teachers, not about the kids. Fred Siegel wrote a great book about this in the 90s, you can look it up, about the New York City teachers unions, which started out as a professional organization. By the end of it, it was carpal tunnel, I need a year off. And the kids got left behind. Right. And it went from the best public school system in the world to quite mediocre. And he traces the decline. Where central control does not work very well.
Yes.
It's hard to find an example where we're going to take dictatorial power over the economy and over people's choices and save them from themselves.
It seems that central control, maybe not, but the government, big government, has a place in saving people who are the most disenfranchised, who are the most problematic. Like I would say that bleeding heart liberals like myself would rather have money spent on helping starving people and poor people and sick people, and let that I'd rather have that system be corrupted or scams put on it or people than people being left behind.
Every kid in Newark, do they get a $10,000 voucher to go to any school, including good ones? Or do you just subsidize the $20,000 they're spending right now on incredibly mediocre schools?
But if the people leave the school system, the public school system, doesn't the public school system collapse?
Well, if the public school system doesn't work, they will migrate to the better school system that will be funded by the portable money. Because right now, what we do is patch mediocrity and defend it.
Yeah.
And what the institutions get good at, the incentive right now for a teachers union is not to improve schools.
No, it's
to defend their political power to help
their
teachers.
Salaries and their everything.
Yeah. It's just
a union.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm for private sector unions. Public sector unions are tricky.
Yeah.
In the old days, the deal was you're going to take the post office job and you're going to get a good pension, but you're not going to have great wages, but you're going to have a lot of security. Now the public sector unions want a lot of security, they want a massive pension, good health care, and high wages.
Right.
And what do? They elect their bosses by turning out in Democratic primaries to pick the school board. So it becomes a feedback loop that's about everything, but there is no incentive for them to do stuff right. I'm for safety nets, and I'm for public infrastructure. I prefer spending money on bridges and electric charging stuff that works and street lights and all that than I'm on transfer payments, which is I'll pay you not to work.
Right. Well, fair enough.
Incentives work.
Right.
Now, if you go too far, you get Dickens.
Right.
I get it. But we've tried the noble experiment. We have written
But the workhouses could be good. The workhouses could be pleasant.
Elon's got some ideas. Little fingers they can assemble quicker.
We can decorate them.
Yeah.
This is now time for question time.
It's question time.
Who was the most surprising candidate you ever worked for?
Wow, it's a great question. I've been lucky a lot of them. Fun or surprising?
Either one.
McCain was fun.
Yeah.
John McCain, 2000, Straight Talk Express. I'll never forget election night in New Hampshire, we won. And McCain, at that moment, he figured out, we're on rocket fuel now. We had a good shot at president. He was like, holy hell, they fell for it.
Right.
I mean, and he was a troublemaker and a wonderful guy. I miss him.
What happened with Sarah Palin?
Well, he called me up about it that morning, and I told him he was nuts. And I mean, I'm trying to figure the short way to say it. there's a tradition in American politics that when the other side is having their convention, you go underground.
Right.
I mean, so they were all in Sedona where McCain had a house watching the convention.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the commentary you hear about politics from experts
Right.
is stupid and wrong, and the people who are better at makeup than working in politics. It's gotten worse now, too. So people don't remember this, but all the talk was Obama beat Hillary.
Mm-hmm.
Women hate Obama for doing that. And they were interviewing Democratic Hillary delegates who were all going to vote for Obama in the end. But yeah, he's got to prove to me that I'm. And so they're watching all that in McCain world. This is the 2008 campaign. Wouldn't have happened in mine. And we got to get a woman. And they went and they found this charismatic, unvetted woman in Alaska. And they were so mad at the media that was rougher on McCain in 2008 than they were in 2000 that we're going to surprise them. It's like Dana Gould's joke about dumb things to say. Watch me surprise the president, And so we're going to surprise the media with this unvetted, unknown. And also, I used to have what I called the Robert Redford rule of vice presidents, which is if you represent Robert Redford, you're the agent, you get the call from the studio. Hey, we think it's time for a Marvel Oscar. So we're going to do Iron Man 5. And we want Redford. Well, he's 82. I know, but the agent, he's parasailing right now, and then he's got his karate lessons. Bob will get you an Oscar, will be the greatest. Yeah, he's ready. Well, it's a two-hander. He's got a sidekick, Titanium Man. We're about to close the deal with Brad Pitt. If you're Redford's agent, I'm thinking Abe Vigoda. Because you don't want the sidekick to be better or different. Then it's about the differences. That's why Clinton was so smart. I'll pick another Southern white Protestant 40-year-old governor who's not as good as me, Al Gore. And now I'm 2 feet taller.
He's genius.
Arnold was smart. I remember we had a party when I started working for him for stuntmen at his house. And I looked around, and every under 5'9" stuntman in Hollywood was there.
Sure.
Bobby Goodman, the great consultant, when he had John Tower, the senator from Texas, to do the reelect, shot the ads in the old Senate chamber with all the small furniture because Tower was about 5'5". So Texas giant, because it was all dollhouse furniture.
Sure.
So that's what happened with Palin.
Well, thank you for being here, man.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Can I do a plug?
You're awesome. Sure, please.
You want to follow me on Twitter, @MurphyMike.
Yep.
You want to learn about all this crazy EV stuff and get your own beer cozy, go to evpolitics.org.
Okay.
All the polling is there. We have an active blog. There's even a way to put in a zip code, find jobs, click a button, send your congressman an email. Don't screw up the subsidies. evpolitics.org.
And can I do a plug?
Yes.
Hacks on Tap is a fantastic, great show. I listen to it every week.
Well, it's
really
like
amazing.
Old coaches.
Yeah.
It's an inside what's really going on.
Yes.
And, we're two old coaches who've been to the top level of it, and we bicker a little. We're old friends, but it's done with love. And we're not, I tease them about being a left-winger, but we tell you what's really going on, about how it works.
Yeah, it's a great show. I listen to it. I get true insight, and it makes me feel better about the world when I listen to you.
Thank you. That makes us happy. Yeah. We designed it so you're on the campaign trail in Iowa a month before the caucus. And generally all the campaign people from the different parties and all go to the same bars. And you walk in like a reporter would or another hack, pull up a stool, and you have the inside conversation.
I like it. And I really appreciate it. Appreciate you being here.
This is a great podcast. I'll be plugging it.
And thank you for being here.
Yes,
and thank you for joining us. And please feel free to share the show whenever you want to. And we'll see you next time.